for the story I'm about to tell you guys, my speech is a little bit messed up from that. So if for some reason you can't understand me, just ask it. We're a family here, so just let me know and I'll repeat whatever I say that you don't get. All right? First of all, I want to thank very much PCC because without them, my kids probably would have missed a few meals, my family would have been hurt even further about what happened to me. So I really want to thank you guys from the bottom of my heart for being the hands and feet of Jesus. Thank you guys. Now, if you guys can bear with me, I want to say a quick prayer for the Ukraine, guys. Dear Lord, I want to thank you for comforting us every day and every way that you do. And I'd like to ask that you please watch over the families in the Ukraine and what they're experiencing right now. Please let them stay focused on you and let them see the light at the end of the tunnel. That is you. Thank you, King Jesus. I'd also like to ask that you bless my words tonight and make them only glorify you and also get to the ears that need to hear them. I love you and I appreciate you, and I only want to do right by you. In your name I pray, Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
All right, let's go back to January 14th of 2014. That was a day that will live in infamy in my life. That was a day that I had to learn the hard way that things really needed to change in my life. That was both pleasant and unpleasant. Pleasant because ultimately it's worked out the exact right way. That's where it strengthens my faith because it's worked out. I cannot express to you how well it's worked out for me. But it would be tragedy, bring tons of tragedy in the short term, in the immediate aftermath of the incident that occurred, guys. So it really came down to my faith, inspiration, and willingness to learn to live again. Like I said from the very beginning, it was like God had to bring me down to the very base of who I was and rebuild me up piece by piece His way. There's no doubt in my mind that's what's occurred. Now I'm better than I ever have been, ever could have dreamed of being. But in retrospect, it wasn't necessary evil that occurred. So I've learned firsthand, very firsthand, that sometimes God lets you reach rock bottom so you can realize that He is that rock at the bottom. Now I'll go back to that day that incident occurred. So from what I recall, which isn't much, but that day started out like any other day. I woke up that morning early, had a job interview at, ironically, the place I work now. That's really irony right there. But I got up, got my kids up, got them dressed and ready for school or daycare, and their bus came around that morning. So I got them on the bus and then I left. As part of that morning, I had promised them that I would get them some kind of toy or trinket that neither one of us can recall exactly what nowadays. So I tried to buy that anyway, but something came up. So I'm a big believer that you have to put things in your lives to look forward to, because we're meant to enjoy our life, look forward to be excited about life. And as your dad, that was my job and my role. I felt my responsibility. I really wanted them to look forward to bringing them back some kind of treat. Ultimately, that day, when I brought them back, was change. That morning, after putting them on the bus, I left for my job interview. You guys are familiar with 288, so I was heading down 288 to my interview. And the speed limit, of course, is 65. Well, I'm driving down the interstate, and I don't remember anything that occurred at all, but I remember what I did too was read the first responder reports about what occurred to me. That was the only way that I really knew, because my memory to this day is not there. But what happened was, per the reports, a Herbie-style trash can, you know, the green ones that you set up by your house and take out to the road once a week, have it empty. Yeah, that one. Well, for some reason, somebody came out in front of me, and I swerved and missed it, going off the road slowly. And when I came back on the road, trying to control my car, I got T-boned by a trash truck who was doing at least 65. So, my guess, who's doing probably more, but as you can see, things don't work out too well. So, due to the impact, quite honestly, I shouldn't even be here. I had a few broken ribs and a cut on the back of my head. And my trauma doctor diagnosed my injuries after x-rays and MRIs and all that as an extremely severe traumatic brain injury. And that didn't work out very good. TBI is also known as shaken baby syndrome for an adult, to give you an idea of what that was. That TBI changed my life in every way possible that you can not imagine. To give you a Cliff Notes version, my injury put me in a coma for about around 32 days. So it took me a while to get out of that and to really bounce my way, try to begin my way back. So in a lot of ways, my life began again on January 15th, 2014. You gotta think, man, I could have been in a permanent vegetative state. We don't know. But I don't believe that I just happened to survive that. I truly believe deep down I was saved. And I was saved to be able to reach you with my story of truth and miracles, because they're very real. During this time frame, my brain was healing, so a lot of my memory might be a little bit like Swiss cheese, maybe. So there are kind of holes in lots of places. So forgive me if I missed something. Now, Kenny was a lifelong best friend of mine. The closest thing I'll ever have to a brother. I met him in 1986 when his family and him moved behind me and my parents in our neighborhood. Kenny told me a story about going to my trauma doctor and asking what he could do to help, maybe speed up the process a little bit of my recovery. His answer was not what you might expect. The doctor knew he was an EMT and a firefighter, and told him he should already know that these type of accidents don't end very well. That his answer specifically was, quote, if you want to help, you need to help his family plan his funeral, end quote. He also told me stories of his initial reaction. After his wife had passed away the year before, he was shaken emotionally and through his faith. He told me how in the shower that night, he pled to God not to take me yet. This is one of the absolute core relationships that I had in this life. And he's so with me through it all. He made it like coming to the hospital while I was in my coma. He told me a funny story about reading a fire textbook to me while I was in my coma. Now, a coma, you kind of lay there, you're not really alert too much, so you don't move all that much. But I'm in my coma now, and he's reading that book to me, and I roll over and put my back on. And that was, to me, that'd be a breakthrough, but apparently even in a coma, he could bore me pretty well. So, I remember one time when I was in the hospital, after I came out of the coma, in physical rehab, I had a physical therapy schedule that I had to do. John was my therapist at MCV, or VCU Medical Center. I rolled in my wheelchair down to see him, and lo and behold, I was surprised because Kenny was there. And I'm like, why is he here? So he had scheduled for me that day to play cornhole. Now, cornhole, we were pretty good at back in the day. We, in fact, technically, we were the Outer Banks champions from our time we lived there. They bought us beer many times in our youth, so I'm just digress a little bit. But this was amazing to me because I got a chance to prove how good I really was. All this, I didn't believe in all these corners they were cutting and all these cushions they were giving me. So now before I could throw my bag, they had to put this belt-like thing on me that wrapped around my chest, and the tail came out the back so they could hold me up. So, see, one of the results of my injury was my balance. It was one of the hardest things I had to deal with was my loss of balance during that time. So, what had happened was during the incident or the accident, it actually crushed my inner ear. So I didn't have much balance and I had to work to get it back. But I took the bag in my hand. I got serious. I was ready. I backed off. It just felt right. So I knew this could be a movie if I played it right. So I got ready. I took my stance and I unleashed the bag toward the other board. And then the bag, I was good. I mean, this is it. Watch this, guys. So at that point, I looked to see where my bag had landed. I'm like, where's that thing at? Because I don't see it. It's got to be in the hole. And boom, I'm good. Only it wasn't in the other hole. In fact, it wasn't even on the other board. I barely had enough strength to get it off my own board. And me being a former personal trainer, that was kind of tough to understand that I wasn't strong enough to even get the bag to the other board. But hey, it is what it is. So that was extra hard. And honestly, at that point we moved it back to just one board, which will probably see up here. I was like, oh. And I couldn't even get this to that board. So, but that truly was the most depressing time of my recovery, right there. Realizing you weren't good enough to even throw a beanbag. So, but through just about anyone who was medically involved in the situation, I should either be dead or extremely severely impacted. Obviously, my speech kind of was. So it's taken a lot of work and time just to get it to be as decent as it is right now. One of the biggest ways one of the biggest side effects too is fatigue. Because anybody that knows a TBI will tell you that one of the core elements of having a TBI is fatigue. It causes you to be a little bit more tired than you would normally be. One of my biggest ways that I feel that is time with my family. I play football with my boys every chance I get. And it's not their fault, but it wears me out. Sometimes I I say take a break, but that's because it really wears me out so bad.
Well,
So,
I'm just feeling terrible.
you know, I work part-time because of this, because of this injury. I can only do part-time, but what I do is Monday through Friday, I get up at 5 o'clock a.m. and I work till noon. But we're out a little bit faster these days. I usually won't nap after work, but I do need serious downtime to build my energy level back up. Stress or something like that can cause me fatigue too. I've been able to rebuild my life, but seriously lower my expectations because I couldn't be the same guy from before. Back then I worked harder. Now I just have to work smarter. But the absolute biggest impact, what people think I am or should be, closed minds. You learn how much opinion, not fact, dictates things these days. Results from the actual injuries you work through become the best you can. Recover every way possible. My faith helped me make my recovery mechanical, not emotional. But closed-minded people can work hard and impact your life negatively. Although when you understand more about faith like I do now, like I've learned, you know it's not the person that's trying to make your life hard. So what have I done? Hey, I've got work to do. I will work every day to be the best I can, no matter what. I'll be busy bettering myself while you live in your false reality or whatever you want to wherever you want to go. It's not my problem. I've learned to know it does not bother me because God has got me. God has got that, and God has got me this far. So why wouldn't He take care of that as well? His time, not ours. What He's done with me is increased 50-fold in me the belief in the phrase, just trust God. I didn't have to just deal with the result of the accident. I wasn't even 5 months out of the hospital, and my former wife of almost a decade now separated. Fortunately, my dad picked me up and took me in, but this was a difficult time because my fuel for a better life and for a happier life and everything I did, my boys were taken away from me on a daily basis. They were, I can't explain to you how much they were the fuel for my life and my recovery. And they deserve, along with my wife and my forever wife, and God and Jesus Himself, they deserve all the credit, man. No doubt about that. My dad himself was a quiet man, but he was a very Christian man. He lived his life by leading by example. I remember my younger years, my dad worked as a foreman or a manager for a local chemical plant that produced all kinds of products that we use on a daily basis. He and my mom were married 42 years and 9 months when we lost her to lung cancer in 2011. Incidentally, she never smoked a day in her life. Dad raised me well and taught me by his actions that a man takes care of the family first, financially or emotionally, like I had to do. That's just what you do, then, you know. It's your job. It's your privilege. Trust that and His faith were the two things that really stuck out to me. And my mom raised me to never doubt that God was real And I'm a firm believer in the fact that maybe she had a hand in why I'm still here today. And I definitely believe she was involved in how I met my wife, my forever wife, as I call her. During this time, I didn't really have any close friends or anything. Kenny will always be my brother, but it wasn't his job to take care of me. I had to stand on my own. Besides, he had his own family. His wife had passed away unexpectedly the year before, and he was acting as both mom and dad. And I would jokingly tell him, I think jokingly, that he was the ugliest mom I've ever seen. In retrospect, it turned out to be, in a way, a journey of growing up again at my dad's, at least temporarily. I was 42, so I'd experienced a minute in adulthood. I felt I needed to get out and reestablish myself. I knew at times some things weren't going to be pretty. They were going to be ugly, in fact, but it had to be done. Like I've always told my boys, and they probably hate this phrase now, suck it up, buttercup. It was during this time that I realized I had a close friend all along that deserved to be in my life far more than he already was. I've always had faith in my life. I was a definite believer, but looking back, I hadn't been much of a true follower. I thought I was, but it's hard to compare then with now. I can remember having conversations with Jesus because he was supposed to be my best friend. I thought I'd make him work a little. And man, I'm going to tell you, he really, really did overtime with that one. It really felt like once I accepted that he had saved me, opportunities began to come. True opportunities. Like the lady that I would now have as my forever wife. Lisa's her name. She's been nothing short of the true blessing from God himself. And if anyone ever has any doubt about faith, I trust my word when I tell you, I've seen it firsthand. I know it's real. I mean, honestly, if God loves me enough to give me her, wow, he must really love me. Mm-hmm. And in fact, he loves us all that way. She saw what I had been through and knew my faith was the only reason that I had come as far as I had. Because I felt I needed to reestablish myself, I needed to find a way to get back up to where my kids were. I wasn't able to do that at my dad's. So I found a basement for rent in the same town my kids lived in, like I'd hoped. And that was the first sign that things were really starting to come back together. That gave me a little bit of freedom to figure out what I needed to do next. There's something about just feeling better when you can even be in the same zip code as your kids, for me. So as a newly single guy, I established an online dating profile. I started profiles of girls in the area, and this is how I met Lisa. So Lisa and I chatted a little bit online, and we decided to actually meet up face to face. Now, keep in mind, because of the nature of my accident and injury, I couldn't drive because I didn't have a license or a vehicle because I was kind of destroyed. But I had an idea because my basement was a walk-in distance from a TGI Fridays. Maybe I could convince Lisa to just meet me there. And we could ease into that fact that I don't like and shit. So, we met there and had a really good time. We laughed and joked and had genuine fun. My wife tells me now how she thought for sure, because of my accident, that I just had to be on some kind of drug or addicted to booze. And speaking of which, I probably could have legally gotten any drug I could possibly want by prescription. But honestly, I never did. I got myself off the prescription meds as soon as I could. I knew I needed to. Next came, we decided to have our first real date where we went out. So it was Christmas time. And both the Fee and Fern believers, our true first date was to downtown Richmond for a horse-drawn carriage ride to enjoy the lights and decorations of Christmas. Lisa picked me up at my Mac Daddy basement. And we headed downtown. There was a feeling in the air that night that just can't be replaced. A feeling of, it's like you were being surrounded and enveloped by Christmas itself. I mean, that was such a wonderful feeling. The carriage took us to parts of downtown that were decorated. They had, and still do, lights that ran up the side of the corners of the buildings from ground to roof, then across the roof line to kind of give it a 3D look. It was truly breathtaking. It was easy to get lost in the moment, and honestly, that moment still goes on every day. Shortly after, Lisa did something for me that was way out of left field to me. She offered, out of the blue, to let me drive her car so I could get practice and maybe get my license back. No string attached, just try your best. That was a move of pure heart to me. That was a move of God himself. So I knew that, even back then. But no, that wasn't nerve-wracking at all. No big deal. I never asked to do this. She just offered. I was able to be real, Lisa, be me. I had to sincerely work hard and continue my practice to be the best I could be. She was allowing me to use her car, so I had to not make sure I did not ever betray that trust and do my best. January 7th, 2015, not even a year later, was the first date that I had to test to get my driver's license back. And I didn't take it very seriously. You kind of walk in, you do a little recon, you figure out how the process goes, what are they going to look for, and then you better yourself along the way. And really, before you come back to expect something good to come from it, then you kind of relax. So, a couple of dry runs before I had any kind of serious expectations. So I get there and find the guys that I'm supposed to do my ride along with. The guy honestly seemed like an old friend of mine. We laughed and joked the whole time. I got so lost in conversation that I didn't realize we were done until they told me to go back to the DMV. And I'm like, oh, bro, what did I mess up? What did I do? And then he's like, oh, no, you did good, but I didn't mean I passed anything. So anyway, I had zero expectation. And then very nonchalantly, he said, oh, you passed. Let me get your paperwork. And just like that, I was driving again. Very first try. And I had no expectations. When you accomplish your goals with very little effort, you wonder if maybe you came too low. But I didn't know that was just one of many still to come. Now, to fast forward a little bit, within a couple of years, Lisa and I got married. We bought a wonderful home, and it's only a half mile from my boys who live with their mom. So it was very close so we can keep their relationship blessed and open. I've seen one of the few things that a man like me can truly find the hand of God blessing, and that's the relationship between Lisa and my boys. Matthew and Daniel are now twins, 14. Incredibly, for almost 6 years now, I've been a professional driver. I drive shuttles for car dealerships, so I have plenty of people that can speak for my abilities in all ways. I will tell you guys, this is one of the very defining moments that proves that God is real and takes care of those who love Him. Because He's using me to show the miracles that He can perform with a willing heart. I've told many a passenger my story. God has used my story to reach to those around me. I've seen it flow through my wife, and I've really seen belief grow through Kenny. He's on God's work right now. Today, I even have my own Facebook page that ties together faith and fitness. The same Conquerors, faith and fitness. Because conquerors, after all, are who we are. We are meant to be better than we are. We're not meant to sit back. We're meant to take control, guys. Take over. Remember and be the heart of God, but take over and have confidence in everything we do. My page has about 150 members now from all over the country. I get special video messages Wednesdays and Fridays every week. I truly believe that this whole ordeal was meant to teach my boys the best lesson they could ever learn, and that's just to trust God. I also believe this tragedy had to occur to lead me to the woman that I was meant to be with. I truly also believe this story was meant to rebuild Kenny's faith, so he could see his prayers were answered. He needs that being on the front lines. Faith and inspiration is our calling. My philosophy in life now is to never quit no matter what. Never quit. Make no mistake, you're here for a reason. This is God's way to reach you and help show you what's really important and a small example of what He's capable of. Remember, no matter what you're experiencing, to please keep in mind the most important things that you can ever do. Love God, praise God, even in the hard times, and above all, trust God. Don't be afraid about tomorrow. And prayer works, God. Pray often. I'm living proof. And if you let Him, He will change your heart, your mind, and your life forever. Thank you, guys.